All right, welcome back to another episode of the Cody Tucker Show. As always, I'm your host, Cody Tucker. Be sure to like and subscribe, tell a friend, all that good stuff. So, I guess before we, kick into the old current events and other topics of the day, usually like to try to, kind of do a little brief overview of how my week went, in case anyone gives a shit. If you don't, skip this part. If you are Greek, skip this part. So, you're about to find out why. So, first off, as wild as this may sound, I am a picky eater. In many ways, I am a very picky eater, which I know sure does not seem that way, but I am. I like what I like, and I hate what I hate. The things I like, I eat a shitload of. Here we are. That being said, throughout all the, 30 years, the just real horrible 30 years that have been spent by me on this planet, I have never tried Mediterranean food, Greek food, whatever. Never had it. I've never had a gyro, however the fuck you want to call it, hero. I pronounced it gyro, which I'm pretty sure was correct, but again, don't know for sure. Anyways, there is this new Mediterranean restaurant that opened, a couple miles from me. So I was like, oh shit, here's my opportunity. I've always wanted to try Mediterranean food. We'll just say Greek food for the, who the fuck else is Mediterranean? I mean, Italy, I think, is in the Mediterranean, but it damn sure wasn't Italian food. And then what? Croatia? I think Croatia's part of the Mediterranean. Who gives a fuck what people in Croatia are? Greek. We'll just say that it was a Greek restaurant. Now, normally, I would not be a fan of someone using their platform to publicly shame and ridicule a business, especially a somewhat, it's not a mom and pop place by any stretch of the imagination, but kind of is. And I would normally consider that to be a pretty shitty thing to do. I am going to now do that exact thing. Call me a hypocrite. I don't care. So I go to this place. Now, again, this is probably not going to be something that is liked by a lot of people that I'm doing this, but I don't care. This is the place that I went to. Now, this is Tiba Mediterranean Grill, which I believe there are multiple of these. Irregardless, this is the one I went to. In my head, I'm imagining just an amazing assortment of Greek delicacies. A lot of lamb, some sweet beef. I don't... Part of all of this is... I'm kind of coming to the realization that I made the mistake, that this is actually not their fault whatsoever, but it kind of is. I should have known ahead of time what Greek food is and what the things I was ordering should taste like. So, this is what I ordered. Now, if you're looking at that and thinking, even as I'm looking at it now, my stomach is kind of hurting. Now, top right, so ignore plate on the other side. That's a little bit of falafel that I wanted to try. Not terrible, not great. Then here's the main course for myself. Top right, you got a little hummus. Hummus was pretty good, but I'm 99% sure it was just the shit that's bought at Walmart. Bottom left, that is baba ganoush, which I've never tried baba ganoush. I've heard the name. a million times and was like, oh shit, they have baba ganoush. Time to try baba ganoush. Also, you might as well start a running tally on how many times I'm about to say baba ganoush. It's going to be a lot. Let's go ahead and take an over-under. I'm going to say 30. So as of right now, go ahead and pick whether you think I'm going to say baba ganoush under or over 30 times within the next, let's say, 15 minutes. So I ordered baba ganoush as one of the sides. Now, this shit in the middle is supposed to be lamb, beef, and rice. Now, the rice is pretty decent, but also rice, that's probably about 45 cents worth of rice. Now, baba ganoush, let's go ahead and just pedal back here. Backpedal, I guess, would be the better way of saying that. Little Yoda thing. So, anyways, baba ganoush is roasted eggplant, apparently. Allegedly, really. Baba ganoush is roasted eggplant, which I like eggplant. And, I'm a big fan of eggplant parmesan. Eggplants are good. So, like a roasted, mushed up eggplant, I'm probably going to like. Now, if you have never had baba ganoush in your life, in your head, imagine what you think this should taste like. Imagine the texture, the temperature, the flavor. Okay. Now, if you imagined that it tastes like salty human bile, you are correct. If you also imagined that it is the temperature of slightly thawed out ice cream, you are also correct. What a shock to the system. Now again, this could be on me. I should have probably looked up ahead of time what baba ganoush is. Absolutely disgusting. Now already, if you're noticing, top right is hummus, bottom left baba ganoush. Both things cold. I have a real hard time eating cold and warm things on the same plate. I find that to be absolutely disgusting. I know people who will eat like spaghetti and the salad on the same plate. And in my head, immediately I write you off as being just a complete piece of trash. And I've seen it so many times. I'm like, you are fucking disgusting. Now, that's basically what this is. Now, this shit in the middle is not lamb and it's not beef. Whatever the hell meat it is, who knows? The menu said pork and beef. Look, as a man who has eaten his fair share of beef, or not pork, sorry, lamb. As a man who has eaten his fair share of beef, I know beef whenever I taste it, and that ain't beef. And it damn sure wasn't lamb. My guess is it was liver and some sort of stray animal that just happened to walk behind the restaurant that day. And then, of course, the rice. So now, granted, rice, about 40 cents. An eggplant, that's probably about a tenth of an eggplant, maybe. Eggplant, a whole damn eggplant's like 75 cents a dollar. So we're at about 46 cents. Hummus, that little like dollop of hummus is probably about maybe 50 cents worth of hummus. So now we're at $1. We're rounding out $1. And then whatever the fuck that lamb and beef bullshit is probably about $4 worth of lamb and beef, because it damn sure wasn't lamb, which would have been the more expensive of the two. So this dish should have come out to about, if we're just going off of like base price, no markup, we're looking at about, I would say about $5. $5 worth of food. Now, of course, the restaurant's going to have a markup. Even if they marked it up triple, $15, which, again, this would not have been worth $5. This shit was a goddamn $25. And I'm not, destitute, but there's no way this should have cost $25. And it was so fucking gross. I mean, if this is what Greek food is, then oh my God. Horrible. Leave it to the people that invented butt fucking to serve this bullshit on a plate. To put cold and hot shit on the same plate is so fucking, put this in a bowl next to it. if you can't tell, this rice, the yellow rice that you see on the bottom left, it was about halfway between cold and freezing. The rice in the middle, very warm. The rice over by the hummus, also cold. That hummus, a little warm. Hummus towards the edge of the plate, cold. Baba ganoush, 33 degrees all the way through. That rice could have been 500 degrees and it would have not knocked the chill off of that fucking baba ganoush. And then this pita bread was clearly purchased at like a Costco or Sam's. Anyways, it is the most disgusting food I've ever had in my life, and I have eaten horrible things. I have eaten a slug on a dare, which, I mean, just to tell that, I mean, why not? I used to be a bit of a drinker. One night, had about anywhere between 12 and 45 natural lights. Got dared by the fellas to eat a slug. And I did. Did not taste good. I would have much rather have eaten 100 of those slugs than one bite of that goddamn baba ganoush. Also, to add to that, I ate the slug. Everything was fine. No sickness, nothing. Next morning, next morning, article pops up on my phone about a fella who, on a dare, ate a slug, and within about 12 hours went into full paralysis. Another 6 hours, dead. So I spent the next day basically writing up my last will and testament, and any little tiny sensation in my like hands or anything, immediately thought I was about to die. So, any kids out there, don't eat slugs. And again, knowing the risk that I could have been paralyzed and killed within 24 hours, still would rather eat slugs than eat that goddamn baba ganoush ever again. Horrible. I am not joking. This is the most disgusting thing I've ever had in my life. And I'm sure that Greek people probably love all this. Which leads me to another point. You know, I don't want to come off as being, prejudiced. But I should have known better, given what little I know about the Greeks. Not the... Just kind of a nasty, not a nasty group of people, but kind of. Like, if you're ranking white people, Greeks are 100% at the bottom. Like, now the British have done horrible things, but I still put them above the Greeks, for sure. Italians have to be number one. Number one best. Like, if you're ranking top three, top worst, or top three best, top three worst, top three best whites, 100% Italians, French, hell, maybe even Brit. I'll put British in there. Not for the food, but damn sure not for the food. But, for the, the Beatles, Rolling Stones, Elizabeth Hurley. Who's Elizabeth Berkley? That's someone. Elizabeth Hurley. You round out those, British up at the top. Now, if you look at outside of Britain, not the greatest group of people. Germany would actually be kind of up there, except for that 1933 to 45 window. Anything before or after, Germany, they seem to be doing them pretty well. And then, of course, like, you get in the middle, and it's just a bunch of boring shit. Swedish, Norwegian, Finnish, Dutch, Danish, fucking Austrian. Like, you start getting where it's just like, this may as well all be one group of people. Now, as you get to the bottom, the three worst have to be Dutch, maybe Irish. I mean, the Irish are not like, but Irish do cool shit too. Dutch is 100% there. But my point is, you go Dutch, what's like a shit group of people? Maybe like Serbians, or like, most of like the former USSR. There's not a lot of good going on over there. So we'll just put that whole group in there. And then number one worst, Greeks. And I know people are like, you don't know shit about Greece. You've never even met a Greek person. True. And I went to a Greek restaurant. It was horrible. You take away like the big four, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Stamos, and, what do you have? You have a bunch of fucking just dirty people serving cold shit with hot shit. That type of person. Like, if you go to someone's house and they're eating cold, like a salad and spaghetti on the same plate, what do you think of that person and their family? You think ignorant, poor. Oh no, I gotta stop. Anyways, you don't think, I bet they have a Bentley in the driveway. Someone serving salad and spaghetti on the same plate has a, like a Ford Taurus, like an '02 Ford Taurus. That's what I'm talking about. That's Greece, Greek people, Greek culture, all of it. I mean, Greece like just legalized gay marriage. So if anybody is like trying to defend Greece, like saying, "Oh, you're being a piece of shit and insensitive and prejudiced," well, go ahead and take a look at what how the Greeks have seemed to operate over the past 2,500 years. A lot of, like basically if like the Catholic Church hired Michael Jackson to perform like at Easter Sunday, that's basically like what Greece is. And you just now legalized gay marriage. Hilarious. Okay. Like there are like statues of, anyways, not just saying. It's the worst. It is the worst feel I've ever had in my life. And I felt like absolute dog shit for the entire day. I mean, I had this 2 days ago, and actually I'm just now feeling like kind of okay. Like, there was no way that what I ate was lamb, but my hands did smell like lamb until about an hour ago. Like, it definitely smelled like I, finger blasted a couple of goats, which, just kind of adds to the Greek ambiance. Oh boy. Anyways, it's it's how things are. And look, I'm not I definitely am a decently white trash person in a lot of ways. But like I would never Baba Ganoush. All right. So moving on. Sorry, T-Bone. Boy, that's gonna suck. Actually, no, it won't. If I find out that fucking shithole gets shut down next week, I will go piss on its grave. Like I'm saying, I'm not gonna be the one to burn it down because I'm terrified of going to prison. Obviously. But if someone did do it, boy, it would be amazing. I mean, I'm not saying anyone should. Do not commit arsony. I'll try to make that a disclaimer at the front of the episode, I guess. But, you know, like if lightning struck it and it just burned to the ground, I would drive to that restaurant right now and just, I mean, I would piss in the ashes. Fucking disgusting. Like, what the fuck are you? I mean, this shit. This is what you're serving to people for $25 goddamn dollars. Oh yeah, and the falafel was like another goddamn 12. Like, I spent like $40 on this meal, and oh my god, they do the bullshit. Like, I'm not gonna go into this shit again, but like, the tip machine of like having the little fucking tablet and making it to where like you basically have to become a member of goddamn Anonymous so that you can crack the fucking code to figure out how to like get away with not tipping. Bullshit. I mean, it is ridiculous. Or to like create your own tip. Like, I'm not tipping what you're telling me to tip you. Just add that to the cost. Like if you were, fuck that. And it's not like a real restaurant. Like there's no waiters. Why am I tipping you? Like you literally, all you did is listen to what I said that I wanted and pressed it in, and then someone else microwaved it and you brought it out to me. That is it. Why would you get a tip for that? Just make the prices. I mean, you're already charging fucking $30 for this bullshit. You might as well add on another, $2. Anyways, all right. So fuck that place. I mean, I'm sorry if there are Greek people listening to this, which there's no way. I mean, there's like 5 people listening to this. The chances of one of them being Greek is, I mean, it would be hilarious if I found out that all 5 people listening to this are like 100% Greek. Like, oh no. Oh well. So let's just move on to some current events and see what's going on in the world. So first, Oregon lawmakers passed bill to recriminalize drug possession. Well. What do you know? Turns out that legalizing drugs makes people do drugs more. And when more people do drugs, guess what? More people die. The state of Oregon has to be one of the dumbest places on the planet. And I'm speaking for me. Drugs being illegal is not what's keeping me from doing drugs. I am just not that stupid. And I'm terrified of drugs. That's actually more of the reason. Me not being that stupid is actually like probably reason number 3. I'm terrified of the effects of, I'm just in general terrified of drugs. But I mean, I don't know how long ago this happened where Oregon like decriminalized basically all drug. And I knew like as soon as that happened, like this is going to be hilarious 3 years from now. And I don't know if my timing is right, but I think it might be. Because like, one, making drug addicts seem like victims is hilarious. People who get hit by cars are victims. People who are assaulted are victims. People who have cancer are victims. People who choose to go find a drug dealer, purchase drugs with money that I'm sure they got, above board. Buying those drugs, let's just say heroin, for example. Buying said heroin, going back to your little rat nest and shooting up heroin, you are not a victim of anything. You are just an idiot. Especially by today's standard. Like, with the information people have today, there ain't a chance in hell somebody could like break in on somebody about to shoot up and go, hey, that's bad for you. And they're like, holy shit, I had no idea. Are you serious? This is bad for me? Yeah, that doesn't happen in 2024. You know what heroin, meth, crack, what are like the bad drug? Fentanyl. Like, you know what like the bad drugs are and like what they do to you. Now, I'm not talking about like weed. Decriminalizing weed, not what I'm talking about here. I mean, granted, I'm not a fan of smoking the grass, but I am a fan of people being able to. There's no like, I mean, I don't know of any negative effects of that. Granted, people who are just high all the time are not like the funnest people to be around. But most drunk people aren't that fun to be around either. And nobody seems to have a problem with that. Actually, most people are not that fun to be around. So, like, you know, it's not really like weed's fault. So anyways, keep marijuana, you know, keep legalizing that. Like, let's not go, you know, pedal to the metal and be like, all right, weed's legal, things went well. Everybody's got time to start smoking crack. Time to start shooting up. Like, no. Like, weed, not on the same level as heroin, meth, whatever. But yeah, for them to be, and like, it's funny when you read it, because I read like a few articles on this, because like, how in the fuck, one, how is this real? But they seem to be very surprised that this happened, that this went poorly, which actually kind of sums up Oregon as a whole. It's people doing what to 99% of people seems like a very bad idea. Them saying those people are pieces of shit, we're going to listen to the 1% that are like, yeah, everybody should do whatever they want. I am on that side most of the time. I am not. And, you know, and honestly, if people do want to do drugs, whatever. I mean, if you want to be that stupid, go ahead. The problem isn't like people doing drugs. It's what people do because of those drugs. It's people who, like, the amount of crime that is committed because of, like, in tandem with meth use. Yeah, that's the problem. It's not that somebody's smoking meth. Go right ahead. Be an idiot. It's I'm running low on money. I'm going to just start robbing people in broad daylight because meth has completely destroyed my brain and made me think that, like, I can do anything I want as long as it gets me the money to where I can get more meth. Heroin, crack, whatever. Substitute whatever drug you want to in there. That's more of the problem. That's the problem. Like, people just being fucking strung out, whatever. I mean, they literally are not doing anything. So, it's not like that, it's not interesting that, like, that it happened, that more people started ODing. Yeah, of course they did. It's just interesting that Oregon had to be like, holy shit, this was not what we had in plan. This is not what we had in mind. Like, I can't believe this is happening. Anyways, all right, moving on. All right, so this article surprised me and did actually along the lines of the Oregon story of like things that are surprising and also not at all surprising. Turns out that half of vinyl buyers in the U.S. don't have a record player. Now, the only reason I'm bringing this up is because I just had a conversation with someone about this, so it was kind of already fresh in my mind. People who collect vinyl. No, actually, hold on. Collecting vinyl is not inherently douchey to me. I used to collect vinyl, had a record player at least. Jesus, I mean, collecting vinyl and not having a record player is one of the dumbest fucking things I've ever heard. But like, I used to collect vinyl. People buying vinyl that is like made now are the dumbest human beings on the planet. That is not what it's meant for. The whole point of listening to an album is because back in the day, you would be listening to that music the way it was supposed to be listened to. Not in the sense that, oh, it's supposed to be on a machine spinning it in a circle. It's because the record label hadn't hired some fucking like computer geek from Caltech to remaster the album and take out all the mistakes, which basically turn all CDs and MP3 into computerized perfect versions of what that song was. So like case in point, one of the albums I had was like Van Halen's first album. Not to brag, but you know. So I had Van Halen 1. When you listen to, so I've only heard that album on either CD or MP3. Have only heard remastered versions of it. And some are like remasters of a remaster of a remaster. Like it seems like they remaster a fucking album every like 6 years. So when I'm listening to it, I'm hearing like absolute digital perfection. But whenever I started collecting vinyl, got a record player, put my headphones on, listened to it, it may as well have been a completely different album. The amount of like mistakes that are left in it, and not like crazy ones, but like it sounds night and day different. And it's not sounding different because it's being played through a record player. It's sounding different because it was recorded onto tape, onto album. That's it. There's no like digital software it's going into. It's not going into like a little fucking mixer that's like already taking out all the flubs. It's not getting like clipped and, you know, put into like the perfect place. It's them in a room playing the song. That goes onto tape. That goes onto album. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's some editing, like if you know, completely fuck up, but like little mistakes, like you can hear people breathing. You can hear like the sound of like the pick hitting the strings. Like you can hear like the drumstick like accidentally like hitting the rim of the snare. Like you can hear all these things that you would hear if you were sitting in that room. So whenever I see people buying like, you know, like a Coldplay album, one, that already, holy shit. But whenever I see people buying like a Coldplay album or like To Pimp a Butterfly, an amazing album, not shitting on the album. I mean, I am shitting on Coldplay for sure, but like, so I guess good point. Bad album or good album, buying an actual vinyl version of that is you're just buying a big CD. It's already gone through all the bullshit, digital remastering and all that shit that all new music has. You playing it through a record player is not the same thing as having like an original copy of the White Album or, you know, fucking Rumors or something like that. It's not the same thing. Playing a vinyl from 1973 is like, it is so hard to describe to people and so whenever I see this shit, it's like mind-boggling to me that people don't understand that. And so people are like buying like new music as in an album form. Like you are a fucking idiot. Oh boy. So anyways, so there's another little fucking rant. I probably should slow it down on that. All right, moving on. Bucket. All right, here's one that well, really not. There's some surprises in here, but not really. Kentucky couple get hitched in gas station bathroom. Oh yeah, this is real. So this white trash, I mean, the definition of white trash. Now, granted, this taking place in Kentucky is the least surprising, like, yeah, I mean, this occurring in the state of Kentucky, I kind of just assume that all weddings take place in a bathroom. Not necessarily a gas station, maybe a Golden Corral, Long John Silver's, you know, other places, but a gas station bathroom. Now, granted, if you were in the state of Texas and you go into a Buc-ee's, you have room in that. I mean, that bathroom should operate as a part-time wedding venue. Those bathrooms are immaculate. And as someone who is, used to, for the first 20 years of my life, had a real hard time using public bathrooms. Like, as soon as I walk into a Buc-ee's, now, if you don't live in Texas, or I think like Alabama has a Buc-ee's, there's a few outside of Texas, and there's other places that are like that too. But like, if you have not been into a Buc-ee's, like every time I go in there, I immediately feel a bunch of weight sink to the bottom of my colon. Like my body knows that you are in defecation heaven. Like, I mean, it is, there's like there is a, phenomenon, whatever you want to call it, a thing where a vast majority of people, anytime they walk into a bookstore, feel the urge to poop. I'm not necessarily one of those people. Going into a Buc-ee's, however, 100% does it for me. Like, I am basically prairie dogging the second I walk through the second I go through the doors. Like, once I start smelling those damn beaver nuggets, like, I got a full-on, I have a tail. So, yeah. Boy, that is, it's weird that whenever you get older, you start appreciating things like that. Because, like, 8-year-old me would not have cared about, would not have given any thought to, like, just how nice it is to go to somewhere public that has a nice bathroom. I mean, 8-year-old me also wasn't smoking, half a pack a day and, wasn't a recovering alcoholic. So I guess there's that too. But anyways, so, if you're getting married in a Buc-ee's bathroom is the only way that it's somewhat acceptable. Now, granted, going back to, my, new favorite addiction, gambling. Hold on. The over-under on this couple... Actually, you know what? This couple's probably going to be married forever. For that woman to say, yes, I will marry you in a gas station bathroom, she has given up so much just in life in general. There is not going to be a moment in her future where she thinks, I'm being undervalued. I'm being underappreciated. That will never cross her mind. So this guy could literally do anything, and she will stick by his side. She got married in a goddamn gas station bathroom. And of course, like, now granted, the odds of this couple being, like, very much related is high. The fact that it's occurring in Kentucky, these people already have the same last name. They were able to save the court a lot of time. Yeah. There's something, my God. Like, I don't know the backstory of this, and I really don't want to know it. I just want to know what I'm seeing. Like, I will make my own backstory. My backstory is that these two met at, Easter dinner when they were like 6 years old. Were playing together. The family noticed and said, I hope to God they marry one day. And sure enough, they did. Well, that's Kentucky for you. Could be better, could be worse. Anyways, we'll do, we'll go and do one more. I already fucking brought it up on accident, so why not? So, this is amazing too. Kellogg's CEO says poor families should consider cereal for dinner. Multimillionaire Gary Pilnick was excoriated? What the fuck does excoriated mean? I should have read this before. Excoriated on the internet. So I guess, like, excoriated must not be good. Multimillionaire Gary Pilnick was excoriated on the internet, especially as cereal prices have risen 28% over the last 4 years. That is not what I thought was the problem with this. Him suggesting they eat a food that has risen in price I did not think was the problem. I thought the problem was that he's suggesting that people eat goddamn Frosted Flakes for dinner, which cannot be good. Now, as someone who used to, again, some Natural Lights, maybe a little Jack Daniels, sometimes you wake up and you think, sometimes you wake up and you see 7:30, and you are not 100% sure which 7:30 it is. It could very well be either one. So, because you're waking up, you just say, fuck it, I'll have some cereal. Now, granted, I'm not eating Frosted Flakes. Frosted Flakes are fucking disgusting. Really, the only cereal I like, which is going to be, I'm going to sound like a real old fuck here, but Honey Bunches of Oats. Or, like, the only cereal that I like. I'm not a big cereal person. I'm not lactose intolerant or anything. I'm probably... that's probably the one thing I'm not intolerant of. But, So, Honey Bunches of Oats. Wake up, 7:30. Eat easily 2 bowls of Honey Bunches of Oats. Almond milk, of course. So maybe I am lactose intolerant. But I actually prefer the taste of almond milk. Milk, like milk, always tastes and smells bad. Like it's gone bad. Like I will buy it, open it, like pop the seal, whiff, and like, oh fuck, this thing's already bad. And I've poured out so much milk thinking that it was bad already. And probably wasn't. Sensitive snout, I guess. But I will buy almond milk, Honey Bunches of Oats, eat it, watch a little TV. Will then realize that I am on the second 7:30. So, in some ways, I have eaten cereal for dinner. I did not actively choose to have that for dinner. It's just the way the cards were dealt. But for a guy who I'm sure is worth a pretty decent amount of money, for him to suggest that families should just start eating not just cereal, his cereal, to save money is bananas to me. And it makes me glad to be alive. Like seeing things like this, seeing that there are people who are at that high of a level of, employment, whatever, profession, success, and to see that they can also say some of the dumbest shit that you've ever heard is beautiful. And it gives me hope in life. So, there's that. All right. So anyways, that'll do it for, this part, the old, current events. We'll go ahead and move on to, strip it or strip it. Hey, yo, stream it or skip it. And then, move on from there. So take a little break and get that going. Okay, so for the old stream it or skip it, as per usual, going to take a look at some movies that are, either some will be new, some will be old. Because I have been watching a lot of older movies lately that are now, on like some streaming service. And I would like to, maybe mention that. So I'll give out like an honorable mention right now. I was not planning on talking about this, but I did just watch the movie. So these are all going to be movies I've seen for the first time, by the way. Watch the movie The Seventh Seal a movie from 1958, directed by Ingmar Bergman, starring Max von Sydow, B.B. Anderson. Incredible. I mean, it's one of those movies that like any like top 200 list or whatever, like AFI, IMDb, whatever, it's always on that list. Absolutely amazing. If you don't mind watching foreign films, black and white films, both, you know, I mean, if you have a problem with that, holy fuck, I mean, grow the fuck up. Now, granted, you know, I have a hard time watching a lot of movies that, like, I won't watch fucking Marvel movies. Not necessarily because I'm, like, too mature for it. I just, like, I get overwhelmed by the sights and sounds. Yeah. Autism. So, you know, if you have a moment, check out The Seventh Seal if you haven't seen it. It's a very good movie, especially if you are terrified of dying, as I am. It did give me one of the most terrifying nightmares that I've had in a long time. Now, the movie itself is not like a horror movie. I mean, it's creepy in certain parts, but it's like way more of a comedy. But it did give me a nightmare that like a person that I knew had, you know, off themselves, and that I had heard about it, went down to look, and I looked in the window and saw that person laying there with their brains out. Was then told by another friend that he had saw that person. He asked, you know, did you see what happened after that? And I was like, no, I just looked down, saw his body, freaked out, and left. He said, oh, well, he scooped his brains back into his head, got up, smiling, and started running, saying, I'm free, I'm free. So, yeah, I have very odd, way too hyper-realistic dreams. I don't know if it's lucid dreaming, because, like, I mean, I guess it kind of is, because, like, I can replay stuff in my dreams. Like, if there's something that I see that I, like, want to see it again, in that moment, I can, like, go back to the beginning of that part and then watch it again and then make something else happen. Like, if I don't like the way that I went, I can, like, do it again and then go a different way. I mean, I think that's lucid dreaming. But I don't know. And I've never, like, I don't, like, do exercises to have lucid. I just always have had very, very vivid dreams. Couple that with a little Prozac. Oh, yeah. Because Prozac already gives you horrifying dreams. And so, yeah. Anyways. So that movie inspired that dream. I'm pretty sure. Because it was basically me, like, finally getting an answer of, like, what happens, that something does happen after you die. Which is kind of the point of the movie, is, like, the knight, played by Max von Sydow, is very much wanting to find out whether or not, you know, he's obviously a very logical thinking person, has a hard time having faith in something. So he would like to have some sort of sign, evidence that there is something else. Which I find to be, you know, the movie is an amazing movie. But anyways, so there's that. That's The Seventh Seal. It's not the ones I was really planning on talking about. One planning on these two. So, as you know, the Academy Awards are coming up. I believe on March 10th, I think. Obviously, the Academy Awards are a bunch of bullshit. But I do like to see what movies are nominated for Best Picture and watch them. I've always been that way. It seemed like they were way better. Like, yeah, they've gotten worse, like, as time has gone by. Also, there's no reason for there to be 10 movies nominated for Best Picture. How the fuck is that possible? But there are, and that's been going on for some time. It used to be 5, and 5 is the perfect number. 5 movies have a good chance of winning Best Picture. Actually, even when it was just 5, there's, like, at least 1 or 2 in there that you're like, this movie doesn't have a fucking chance. Now it's, like, 8 movies that are that have no chance, and some of them are. Anyways, so I realized, like, oh shit, like, Academy Awards are coming up. I've not watched hardly any of the movies that are nominated. I did Oppenheimer last week or the week before. You know, good, not great. So I was like, oh shit, I gotta pack in all the other ones. So, to go in with that, Killers of the Flower Moon. I watched Killers of the Flower Moon. Obviously directed by Martin Scorsese, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Lily Gladstone, Robert De Niro, Jesse Plemons. The fucker from Mighty Ducks is in it. I feel like there's like a bigger person that shows up later that I was like, oh shit, this person's in this movie? Anyways, maybe not. So, this movie, skip it. 100% skip it. Not even going to bore you with the details like this movie did. Skip this movie could have been so good. Out of the entire list of movies, out of all 10 of those, that was the one I was most looking forward to seeing. The one where I was like, oh my God, Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, already combined, and it's Martin Scorsese. Then, as you watch the movie, you go, oh, right, it's directed by Martin Scorsese. So, it's going to have a bunch of stuff in there that is long and drawn out, doesn't need to be there, and the ending is going to be absolute. I mean, it's going to be just the dumbest ending you could imagine. And it is. And I'm going to spoil this movie right now. It's just not fucking, oh my God, I did the Trump. Ooh, I did the Trump thing. Oh no. That's not good. It might be the t-shirt. So I'm going to spoil the movie. It's fucking history, so it's not a spoiler. It ends, like, obviously it tells the story of Leonardo DiCaprio's character is coming back from the war. His uncle, rich guy that's beloved in his city. The city is, it's Osage, Oklahoma, which, oh shit, okay. So anyways, to do that backstory quick, in, right around, World War I, a little bit after, maybe even a little bit before actually, a lot of oil was discovered in the area of the Osage Indians, Native Americans. I feel like that it changes, so say both. But the Osage people, so they end up becoming massively wealthy, and as the the American whites tend to do, said we can't be having that. So they come in with these laws that state that, like, they have to have caretakers because they can't be trusted with that kind of money. These are godless heathens, which hilarious that like they're dealing with their money perfectly fine, and then of course we come in and just fuck everything up. If you are if you have a hard time coping with like some white people have a hard time like hearing that white people have done bad things, don't watch this movie then. But if you or read about, I mean, fucking hell, we've done horrible shit to people. This is just an example. And for what I say, the acting is great, all of that. The directing is okay. It just like so it goes into that whole thing, tells a story, which is good because most people do, I imagine, don't know anything about this. So it is good. Like, you got to go through a lot of detail because you have to be able to show what the fuck happened to these people and how like horrible it was. But it just keeps going and going and going. Then you finally feel like you're at the end after like 7 different ends, and it ends with them doing like the live recording of a like radio broadcast telling the story of how it all ended. And boy, was I 99% sure that I got like a bum version of it. That was like, okay, hold on. There's no way that this is how this movie ended. And sure enough, that is how Martin Scorsese, arguably one of the most famous, and has made a lot of very good movies, but he's also made a lot of just complete wastes of time. Not like that the whole movie was a waste of time. The movie should have been shortened down by at least an hour. It's the same problem you have with fucking Gangs of New York and The Irishman, where they just go on so long and they end horribly. Like, Gangs of New York is one of the worst fucking movies ever. But he knows how to have, like, great actors do great shit, so people kind of ignore the fact that the movie sucks because they're too busy looking at Daniel Day-Lewis like, oh my god, he's so great. And then, you know, he's like, I mean, okay, like, he's being a fucking insufferable prick on the side of the movie because he won't stop being Bill the Butcher. It's like, all right, we get it. You're playing make-believe for a living, douche. Then Killers of the Flower Moon, you know, De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio are incredible. Like, holy shit. So you kind of like start thinking, like, you get like kind of sidetracked and you're just watching these two people acting, like, holy fuck. And then you start realizing, like, oh, this movie's not good. Like, it's not, there's nothing good. This movie fucking sucks. I'm going to go ahead and say, move on. Move on from Killers of the Flower Moon, just to kind of go ahead and speed things up. Then I watched this, Poor Things, which directed by a fellow named Yorgos Lanthimos, who I'm a massive fan of. I like weird movies. He makes weird movies. So, you know, 2 peas in 2 pods. 2 peas in 1 pod. So then there's Poor Things. So I'm like, oh shit, this is good. It's kind of like his take on Frankenstein, sort of. I'm in. It has Willem Dafoe. Always, you know, gonna watch a movie with old Bill Dafoe. So I'm pretty excited for this. 2, that is like 100% was, you know, next on my list. Like, gotta watch this one. This movie is so horrible. And not like horrible like, oh, it's shocking and shit, which there are some parts in there where you're like, oh, Jesus Christ, this is weird. This movie sucks so much. I'm not giving it the time of day. This movie was so goddamn boring. This movie, how was this nominated for Best Picture? So, you know what? Fuck the Academy Awards. I'm not watching another one of them. I've watched 3. I watched Oppenheimer. Killers of the Flower Moon. Poor Things. One of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. And maybe I just don't get it. Who knows? I feel like I should get it. I mean, I watch a lot of like weird shit that should lead, you know, me to be able to like understand movies. It's just like, if the, you know, and who knows, maybe the other movies are incredible. Maybe I just happen to watch 2.5 dog shit movies. I don't think that's the case. I think that the other 7 movies are probably also not very good. So my, you know, idea of watching all the Academy Awards movies before the Oscars and then, like, you know, talking about them, that is not going to happen. I've talked about 3 of them. That is as much time as I am willing to put into talking about these fucking horrible movies. I may not even do this segment anymore. I might have to take a break, and then I might just, in passing, talk about a movie being good instead of just making a whole fucking segment out of it. I thought this was a good idea. I am now realizing it may not have been a great idea. There's no way anybody is watching to this point. I could be talking about whatever the fuck, and nobody would know. So I'll probably just say, like, hey, watch this shit. And then that'll be the end of the segment. Because, goddamn, I've wasted a lot of time on this. Which is fine. That is life. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you think you're doing the right thing and you realize you're wasting all your fucking time on it. Don't watch Killers of the Flower Moon. Don't watch Poor Things. If you want to watch Oppenheimer, alright, but it's not that great either. I didn't watch Barbie. I don't give a fuck. I'm a goddamn grown man. I'm not watching it. Sorry. You know, and I am 100%. It's not like, it's not like, you know, oh, you don't want to watch it because it's a pro-woman movie, which people have said that to me whenever I told them I don't give a fuck about watching it. Hilarious. That is definitely not the reason. I'm not watching it because I'm a fucking 30-year-old man. And if you know what it would sound like for me to be like excited to watch a Barbie movie? It's just not how that works. It's the same. I also don't watch the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies. I also don't watch the G.I. Joe movies. I don't give a fuck about watching movies based on shit that I didn't even like when I was a kid. I didn't care about fucking turtles that fought crime. I didn't care about G.I. Joe. and the, military industrial complex. I didn't care about Smurfs, to hell with blue people. I didn't care. So, yeah, I'm not going to care whenever they make a, $100 million movie about them. I'm not going to care. I didn't have Barbie dolls as a kid. My parents, my parents probably would have been cool with it. As much as I like to think they're not very progressive people, they probably would have been like, at least he's fucking out of our hair. But I didn't. I didn't give a shit about Barbie as a kid. Why the hell would I care about it now? So, I'm not saying, I'm just saying. That's how the fuck it works. So yeah, I'm not watching Barbie. And then all the rest of them, like, holy fuck, I'd rather put a fucking hollow point in between my eyes than watch any of these other movies. So, because I do not wish to die, I will not watch them. So anyways, that'll be the end of that one. And time to move on to a little bit of the old historical segment of the program. Talk about, where things come from. Interesting stories, all that good stuff. So here's a little bit of the old where that come from, and we'll start that right now. All right, so for this, where that come from, another example of, European mildly funny racism turning into a phrase that we still use. A word that we still use all the time. So, back in the Middle Ages, say 1200s to 1300s, in Europe during the Middle Ages, obviously, so this is at a time where a lot of just average European people would start seeing people from other places, from like Northern Africa, Asia, like a lot more, travel between continents. Obviously, it was happening before then too, but it's becoming more and more prevalent. So people who otherwise would never have met someone from Singapore is now meeting someone from Singapore. Well, a lot of the Europeans at this time did not see the people. So the Europeans at this time did not see the other people as being equal to the Europeans. And boy, how times have changed. So, yeah, there was a lot of, we're European, we're better, we're more civilized. That mentality existed way back then, just as it, kind of always has. So, the Europeans definitely are seeing themselves as being superior, like a more civilized group of people. They kind of just group all of the like foreign people as being part of one group. So they, for whatever reason, see anyone having dark hair and dark skin as being Egyptian. That's the country they landed on. They said, "Fuck it, you're Egyptian. You're from, East Timor? No, you're not. You're from Egypt." Yeah, you're from Japan? I don't think so. You're from Egypt. So they just started saying that everybody from everywhere, if you're not European, you're Egyptian. Now, eventually, that just kind of becomes the slang, the way that they refer to people who are, not European. And that gets... So then that, calling people Egyptian ends up getting shortened to Gypt, saying that they're Gyps, which is where we get the word gypsy. Which, and then like to Gyp, all that kind of stuff, all that comes from that. So shortening Egyptian to Gyp is where we get gypsy. And, of course, they don't understand any of the languages that are being spoken to them. This Egyptian language, no idea. So they just say that it sounds like they are speaking gibberish, So gibberish actually comes from the shortened racial slur version of Egyptian. So them not being able to understand their language, they just say, oh, they're Egyptians, they must speak gibberish. And so that is where we get the word gibberish, which then turns into jibber jabber, all that. So yeah, that's where the word gibberish comes from. Hilarious. All right, so moving on to the old half-ass history. All right, so this one's going to be, it's a bit of a doozy, but I'm going to try to go through it pretty quick. So, all right, so while working on the Manhattan Project, which if you saw Oppenheimer, you know about the Manhattan Project. So when they're working on the Manhattan Project, when scientists are working on the Manhattan Project, they are trying to, develop the atomic bomb. While doing this, they're going to be handling a lot of plutonium. They start noticing that a lot of the workers have, pretty high levels of plutonium in their bloodstream. So they start thinking, we should probably figure out, what the effects of this plutonium exposure is going to be. So they have to set up experiments, figure out, like what does long-term exposure do to you? What is short-term exposure? How much plutonium can you have in you before the symptoms start showing up? Probably need to go ahead and figure this out pretty quick. Well, at the University of the University of California, San Francisco, there's a doctor named Joseph Hamilton. Dr. Joseph Hamilton had been injecting himself with plutonium because he wanted to see what it would do to him. Great idea. So, surprise, surprise, he ends up dying from leukemia at 49 years of age. Plutonium, not that safe. So, not wanting the experiments to just stop because, the good doctor dies, the university is like, no, we got to keep going, make this, a much more broader scope. So they end up using 18 different people. So they end up using 18 people as part of the experiments, ages ranging from 4 to 69 years old. Now, the requirement for these people is that they already had some sort of terminal illness. So these are not already like healthy people. These are people who are already going to die. And allegedly, none of the people ended up dying from plutonium. They all eventually died, of course. Of course, they all eventually end up dying. But allegedly, none of them died from plutonium. They died from the terminal illness that they already had. Sure. Now enter the man of the hour, old Albert Stevens. So Albert Stevens, just a house painter, normal dude, starts feeling a little sick, ends up going to his doctor's office. When he goes to visit his doctor, they end up diagnosing him with terminal cancer. They're like, sorry, Al, it ain't good. So they end up adding him to that list of people to do the plutonium experiments. They do not tell him that that's what's happening to him. They tell him that they're doing like this experimental, treatment for his cancer that hopefully will, rid himself of that disease. So he's like, yeah, hell yeah, I will do that. When in reality, they're just giving him massive doses of plutonium. So over time, he's getting injected with multiple lethal level doses of plutonium. Somehow survives. Like they are injecting his ass with so much plutonium and he ain't dying. Well, a little bit later, he goes to a different doctor to have surgery done for his cancer. Well, when they go to perform the surgery, they are pretty shocked to find that he never had cancer. Turns out what Albert Stevens had was just an ulcer that was misdiagnosed as terminal cancer. So they're giving him all this plutonium for no reason. But it's a little bit too late. So they do not tell him that he doesn't have cancer. They just basically write it off as like, oh, well, the experiments are working. don't need to stop now. We got to make sure we continue so that, your cancer doesn't come back. So, goddamn. This is so shitty. So, over the next 20 years, they end up dosing him with 300 rims of plutonium every single year. So over that 20 years, he gets injected with 6,400 rims of plutonium. The allowed dose for a radiation worker in the U.S. is 5 rims. He ends up getting 300 every single year. Somehow, Albert Stevens was able to live to the age of 79. He ends up dying in 1966 from a heart attack at 79 years of age. So yeah, somehow was able to live to 79 years old. My God. Amazing. So yeah, there's the story of Albert Stevens. Poor bastard. All right, moving on. All right, so time for a little Hollywood history for this one. So we're talking about a fellow named Jackie Coogan, which you may not know this name, which is fine. But it's become, it's become very well documented over time. It's become very well documented that child actors usually do not end up doing very well later in life. Not always, but a lot of times, So, this is true even going back to the very beginning. So, Jackie Coogan is arguably one of the very first child actors, like mega famous child actors. Jackie Coogan was born in 1914, starts off as a little kid playing, doing work, starts off as a little kid in vaudeville. He ends up getting discovered by Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin ends up casting him in the role of the Kid in his 1921 film, The Kid. Then, right after that, so that movie ends up being massively successful. Then, right after that, he's cast in the role of Oliver Twist. Those two roles combined, he ends up becoming massively famous at a very young age. So he becomes basically the very first child star. As a child, he made $4 million, which is $59 million in today's money. So yeah, Jackie Coogan, you would think, set for life. Doesn't ever have to act again, doesn't have to work again. He's good. Well, when Jackie Coogan was 21 years old, he went to his bank, wanted to check on his bank accounts, take out some money. Turns out he had no money. What had happened was that Jackie Coogan's mom and his stepfather had spent all of his money. They had just robbed their son of all $4 million. Oh, yeah. When asked about it, Coogan's mother said, "No promises were ever made to give Jackie anything. He was a bad boy." My God. So yeah, all the money gone. Jackie Coogan is screwed. So he tries to figure out, how can I get some of this money back? So he ends up suing his mother and stepfather. And, of course, now having no money, pretty hard to afford lawyers. Well, who comes along to pay for the lawyers for Jackie Coogan? His old friend, Charlie Chaplin. So Charlie Chaplin ends up paying for the lawyers for Jackie Coogan so that he can sue his own parents. And he does successfully sue his mother and stepfather. Only problem is he's only able to retrieve $126,000 out of that $4 million. Yeah, not great. So, I mean, just horrible circumstances for Jackie Coogan. Just a horrible thing to happen to, a child who is now, having to sue his own parents at 21 years old for his own money. So it becomes, very big news story at the time. And of course, there's a lot of pressure in Hollywood of like, how do we make sure that that does not happen to kids anymore? That like these kids that are in movies, how do we make sure that they're protected? Well, in 1939, so a year after Jackie Coogan's lawsuit, California passes the California Child Actors Bill, which the bill states that the employer has to set aside at least 15% of the child's earnings into a trust. That trust is known as a Coogan account. The bill is known as the Coogan Act. So the bill basically became named after Jackie Coogan. Now, so that bill gets passed, and it, with the exception of a couple of people, it works very well for child actors. Now, obviously, there's other issues, and but at least the just blindly robbing your own child becomes not as common. So, the bill's passed, goes into effect, and pretty successful. So you might be thinking, well, whatever happened to Jackie Coogan? Well, when he was 50 years old, he ends up, so Jackie Coogan ends up acting, like still trying to act, from here on out. Still got to make money. He doesn't have that $4 million, safety net that he used to have. So he still takes on some roles, little minor parts. Well, when he's 50 years old, he ends up getting cast in a role So when he's 50 years old, he ends up getting cast in the role that makes him massively successful. He ends up getting cast in the role that he is definitely most famous for, and that is the role of Uncle Fester in The Addams Family. Yeah, that's Jackie Coogan. Crazy. So there's the story of old JC and his just piece of shit parents. And so we'll do one more, and then it'll be time to go. All right, so last story of the day. Man, this is a wild one. Without a doubt, the craziest close call I've ever heard. So, I guess you'd be the judge of that, judge for yourself. But, boy, it's a wild one. So, for this story, we're going back to 1977. 1977, there's a woman named Catherine living in Los Angeles. One night, she's hanging out in L.A., she's approached by two police officers. They start asking her some questions, and she's talking to the officers for a little bit. They eventually let her go on her way, they go on theirs, and that's it. Well, a few years after that, Catherine's looking at a newspaper, sees a picture of two guys, and she's like, damn, they look really familiar. Then it dawns on her, oh, those are the police officers that I talked to, back then. Well, turns out they were not police officers. They were pretending to be police officers. They were actually two guys named Angelo Buono and Kenneth Bianchi. They had been arrested for the murders of at least 12 women and became known as the Hillside Stranglers. Yeah, so you might be thinking, why didn't they make Catherine one of their victims? So, as it turns out, they did plan on making her a victim. They 100% that night were planning to kidnap her and kill her. So, why didn't they? Well, as they were talking to her, as they were talking to Catherine, they found out that Catherine's name is Catherine Lorre, and that her father is the actor Peter Lorre from Casablanca. They, being huge movie fans, loved her father's movies, so they let her go. Yeah, wild. So that is how Catherine Lorre survived. Nearly being killed by, two of the most, horrific serial killers in U.S. history. So, some ways nepotism kind of works. All right, so that'll do it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for next week's episode. just shoot the shit a little bit more, tell some more crazy stories from history. All right. Until then, goodbye.